Hello everybody, I'm John, this is Strategic Investing, and today we're going to be talking about how Evolv might be affected by the recent closure, the recent failure of Silicon Valley Bank. Now a lot of you guys have probably heard about that, and a lot of you guys know I do cover Xtract One on my channel. It's one of the main stocks that I cover, and obviously Evolv is one of the major competitors in the space, and they announced just a few months ago that they received or they secured this $75 million non-dilutive debt financing. And so there's been some speculation as to how this bank failure might be affecting Evolv. How bad is it for them? Is it even bad at all for them? So let's talk about exactly what this $75 million non-dilutive debt financing is, what they were going to be using it for, and how this will actually affect Evolv. So if we go into this press release here, this is the press release that we got when they first announced the deal. We can see that basically what the plan is for this $75 million debt financing. It's basically to fund the purchase of hardware specifically for their subscription offerings. So you guys can see right down here, basically this line here, it says, "We believe that this program with Silicon Valley Bank will enable us to offset any cash we deploy to fund these hardware purchases from our contracted manufacturer, enabling us to operate a capital-free SaaS model while more effectively supporting our long-term growth plans." Okay, so what they're saying here with this capital-free SaaS model that they mention here, basically they operate in a similar way to Xtract One, right? They have hardware and they have 4-year contracts, but they also have upfront purchases. You know, they have a similar mix there, right? But they do have to purchase that hardware, right? They go through a manufacturer and they have to pay for that up front, and then they make it back, you know, over the life of the contract. Well, what they've kind of gone through and done with Silicon Valley Bank here is worked out a deal to where they have this available credit to use, the $75 million or up to $75 million, and they can use that money to purchase all of the hardware, and then as they make it back over the life of that contract, they can then pay off the loan, and then once they've paid off, you know, whatever they've used to purchase the hardware, then everything else is basically profit on top of that, and they never actually had to disperse any of their own cash in that process. So that's what they're saying when they say a capital-free SaaS model there. It's a great model, right? And it makes it very easy for them to quickly accelerate their growth because they have that nice access to capital. They don't have to worry about necessarily their own cash position specifically for purchasing that hardware. Well, now they likely aren't going to have access to that. Most likely that $75 million debt financing deal is gone. Now, they already have kind of pulled some money from that. They've kind of drawn down, they said in their last quarter, about $30 million from that debt financing deal. They will still most likely have to pay that back. Very likely either the government or a larger financial institution is going to purchase that debt, and that debt will then be collected by that other institution or by the government. That is most likely what is going to happen. But in the future, that's actually where the bigger problem could be for Evolv, because if they don't have access to this $75 million deal, one, that really kind of changes maybe a lot of the current investors' take on Evolv, right? Because currently the stock price is based on most of the investors knowing that they have that deal set up, right? Like I said, it's a pretty sweet deal. It really allows them to grow well, allows them to not have to worry about their cash position. Now, that's not the case. So with that in mind, let's take a look at actually what their expenses are for the hardware and see how much this is actually going to affect them. So if we look at their most recent earnings statement, right, you can see they have product revenue and subscription revenue right here, because just like with Xtract, they have a model where customers can either do a full subscription, they lease the hardware and they have a subscription for the software and service, or they can purchase the hardware up front, they own the hardware, and then all they're paying for on top of that is some service and maybe some updates for the software, things like that. You can see down here, we also have a breakdown of the cost of product revenue and the cost of subscription revenue. So if you look down here, it actually is only about 1.7 million. Remember, these numbers are in thousands here, right? Most balance sheet, income statement numbers are in either thousands or millions. So this is actually $1.7 million here in the last quarter. That's actually not that much. The problem here is, though, they have been saying in their last 2 quarters or so they're trying to heavily shift the majority of their contracts going forward to the subscription model, right? What that means is a lot of these costs that they're currently spending on the product revenue are going to shift into the subscription model if that's the way that they're going to do it, right? The reason they're probably trying to shift more into the subscription model is because the subscription model is likely far more profitable for them, especially in the long term, right? If the customer buys the product just outright, they pay for that once. They don't have to pay, 4 or 5 years down the road to continue leasing that product, right? So most likely long term, it's going to be more profitable for them to do the subscription model. The problem is if they shift all of that cost into the subscription model, right? And they don't get to collect all of that revenue up front, but now they're going to have to pull all of these expenses, right, out of their cash position. They do have a decent amount of cash, right? If you go down to their balance sheet, so they have $230 million in cash. So they have a decent amount of cash right now. But again, this is something that they didn't expect, right? And when you're looking at their guidance for where they think they're going to go, how much cash they think they're going to have at the end of next quarter, next year, right? That was all estimated on the availability of that $75 million debt financing, right, in that deal. So now with them most likely no longer having that, right, we're looking at a decent amount more of expenses every quarter, and they're going to have to shift some of their estimates there. So it'll be interesting to see, they'll probably come out with a news release pretty soon to kind of say, hey, this is what's going on, this is how it's going to work. But it looks like it's going to have a decent impact on their cash position going forward. Maybe not too much affect their growth because they do still have that $230 million that they could use. The issue is, that cash position is going to be depleted much faster now because they don't have that $75 million debt financing. So that's my main take on the situation and how this will affect Evolv Technology. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any other info relating to this. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.